Hello, I'm Full Paragon, and this is your guide to the Earth Specter Arena. The Earth Specter returns and brings doom with him. On the second turn, he will use a debuff which will kill a unit after a short countdown. To avoid this problem, put Megamine in the first slot. She'll absorb the Doom debuff and take it with her when she explodes. On the first turn, the Earth Specter will use a Tier 3 physical attack debuff, which will last a massive 16 seconds. Wind has no debuff blocks, so leading with mages is probably a good idea. The Spectre will also mostly deal magic damage to foes. The last thing to consider is that the Earth Spectre will periodically cleanse itself from all debuffs whenever it uses its ultimate, so keep that in mind when applying defense or agility downs on the boss. We'll start off with the Mage team. Once more, I think ReZero Megamine is going to be the best character to run in the first slot. She's just awesome at dealing with the waves and giving your team some buffs. In this case, you want her to be blowing up after the second turn because she'll take that Doom debuff with her. You can also use Cafe Megamine, although I don't think she'll work as well. As for the rest of your team, Rin is still the preeminent Wind Mage, and I would put her in the next slot. She absolutely does the most damage thanks to her wind-based ultimate, which also gives her a self Tier 2 agility up. You can also use the welfare version of Rin, but I think the 4-star is going to win out. Of course, we can't forget Summer Aru, who comes along with a new Gauge Up ability. You have to be really careful when using her, as she has a self cooldown cut, so use her Gauge Up ability first, then the cooldown cut for even more gauge improvement. She's just overall a lot of damage, and the best replacement for her will probably be Christmas Wiz. Due to how much damage the boss deals, I think Cafe Cecily is going to be a good choice here. You could forgo her and use someone like Eyes instead, but if you do, you'll probably want to use Luna to help keep your team alive, which means you're sacrificing Chomosuke, which isn't always the best option. In the last slot, I put Onsen Union, although I don't think she's absolutely the best choice to put in the last slot. You can easily replace her with Eyes or Iris, and I think both of them will probably do better than Union does. Still, if you want to build a full mage team, Onsen Union is still quite a bit of damage and is definitely worth including. If you want to use a physical team to try and fight through that physical debuff, I still recommend you put Megamine up front to soak that rather nasty Doom and to help with the abysmal wave clear that Eyes has. Cafe Megamine is probably the best bet in this case, although you can always use ReZero Megamine and get good results. Of course, the main reason to run physical is the Sword Princess Eyes. She's just the most broken thing in Wind, and it's possible she just wins through the debuff on the sheer power that she has. Her ultimate being wind-based and the gauge up as well as massive self-agility buff that she has just means that Eyes is a complete powerhouse in Rin and can carry this team. Chris is another good choice up front to help mitigate the boss's damage, as the boss is vulnerable to her bind, and her Tier 3 agility down is a good way to help control the boss. Note that the boss will cleanse itself of debuffs when using its ultimate, so you're going to have to time it carefully to get the most mileage out of that. You can swap Chris for someone else like Kenpo Erika, as she's probably a little bit more damaged than Chris in this case. Another great choice in Wind is Wind Mitsurugi. He's welfare, but he's still very powerful, and he offers some much needed recovery as well as good buffs to your team. You can probably swap him with Iris and get more or less the same results, but he's a solid pick either way. And the last slot is, of course, Iris. Iris is just monster in the last slot, and SS Iris is the best at this yet, with 2 incredibly strong buffs for herself, which will help keep her relevant. Do note, though, that Iris in the last slot is something that you can pretty easily replace with someone like Aru or another hard-hitting character. Since I think mages are probably the better team here, I'll go over some other options real quick. Of course, you're going to need Megamine in slot 1. If you don't have Cafe or ReZero Megamine, someone like Onsen Megamine will get the job, or 3-star Fire Megamine. It just becomes a game of who you can use, as they're all much worse than the Cafe or ReZero options. There aren't very many welfare options in Wind, and Wind Komeko is basically one of the only ones. She's just not very good. I would replace her with someone like Eyes or Iris if you have them, but if you absolutely don't have any other choice, you can make 3-star Komeko work. While Christmas Wiz is no longer heavily favored because you can just run Aru instead, she's as powerful as always. If you have her, you can definitely run her and get some good use out of her. Again, remember the boss will cleanse her agility down, which is another reason she's not favored here, but you can still get her to work. If you don't have Cafe Cecily, I think your next best option is going to be Maid Amy. She has more damage than Win Silo, while still providing some decent healing and recovery options, although she's probably a little bit of overkill. That's the video. Thanks for watching. There will be a stream shortly after this video goes up. I'll be going through this arena and doing some pulls on the new swimsuit banner to see what we can brew up.